The intercom rang. "Mr. Anderson, someone is looking for you." Mr. Anderson fidgeted. The day was coming to an end, and an important business meeting had not taken place. Consider this a business meeting. The envelope in his jacket's inside pocket felt heavier than its contents. A tall, thin man in a leather jacket and khakis entered his office carrying a briefcase. Mr. Anderson stood up and extended his hand. "And you are?" "I'm your client for 2 hours," replied the man, looking curiously at the outstretched hand. Embarrassed, Mr. Anderson withdrew his hand, and a flash of irritation crossed his face. "I've been waiting for you in the dining room for an hour. Where the hell have you been? What are you doing here? Someone might see you." "I was there, Mr. Anderson. I wanted to see who else was there. In my line of work, you can't be too careful. Besides, it's been 2 hours already. And now I'm here." He took off his leather jacket before sitting down and folded it over the back of a chair. "I have a quick question about my fee." Without a word, Mr. Anderson passed the envelope from his jacket to the man across the table. The man grabbed it by the short edges and opened it with his thumbs. Bringing the envelope close to his nose, he inhaled deeply. "Ah, anger. $10,000 is a lot of anger, Mr. Anderson. And what do you want to buy today?" The moment of truth had arrived, and the businessman hesitated. "Didn't, Jacob tell you?" The man closed the envelope and slipped it into one of his briefcase pockets. "I wonder why a man who hires criminals suddenly becomes so shy when it comes to asking for what he wants." "You're not wearing a listening device?" Anderson asked suspiciously. "I am a modest and professional sociopath, Mr. Anderson. I am not a cop. Consider me the complete opposite of a priest. Nothing you say will shock me or cause me to disapprove. Here." He placed his left hand on his chest and raised his right. "I swear I won't be the first to reveal the subject of this conversation to anyone other than my business partner. Is that okay with you?" Not really. I was expecting someone more." "More?" "I don't know. Do you often meet with criminals, Mr. Anderson?" He started to light a cigarette. "No smoking here." Seeing the sarcastic look, he quickly explained, "It's a building rule." The man took a long drag and exhaled. "We're close to the end of the workday. Your secretary is leaving in 10 minutes. We're in a closed office. You just paid me $10,000, and you're arguing about whether I smoke? Take it as proof of my criminal good faith, Mr. Anderson." The man sighed. "What's your name? Are you sure Jacob sent you?" "What's in a name? Rose by any other?" "Never mind. I have many names. You can call me Curtis. We're beating around the bush, Mr. Anderson. What exactly do you want me to do?" Mr. Anderson swallowed. My wife. That whore. She was cheating on me, not just once, many times over the last 3 months, with that asshole from work. He left when I asked her. I want revenge." As he spoke, Curtis reached into his briefcase and began pulling out several folders. He paused at the last sentence. "Equal? You're paying me $10,000 to take her out?" He shrugged and flicked ash into the pen cup on Mr. Anderson's desk. The businessman bit his tongue. "I'm not usually in the pimping business, but I know a few girls. Do you want to run away with someone or go through a string of escort girls in front of her? In my experience, most women suffer more from emotional attachment if you get a girlfriend, but there's a subtle sense of insecurity from now having to compete with the imagined sexual prowess of your paid harem, especially considering she knows how much you're spending on it. Escort girls can be expensive. Like your savings? Some men like to hide these expenses in their accounts. It usually doesn't work when the books are audited." Curtis seemed rather bored. "What? Escort girls? Ran away? What are you talking about?" Curtis frowned and pursed his lips. "You said yourself that you wanted revenge. She cheated on you for 3 months. Now you can cheat on her for 3 months. Although that's a pretty high price to pay for a few dates. Usually people do that themselves. You've heard of Ashley Madison, haven't you? Are you an idiot? I don't want to cheat on her. Okay, I want to cheat on her, but I want her to pay. Curtis slapped his forehead. I'm stupid. You don't want to cheat. You want to get more. He pointed at the man. I love how you believe. Nothing brings success like excess. Much more animated, he pulled a new notepad and a stack of manila folders from his side pockets. Now, it's a little more complicated since you've already encountered her, but that's easy to deal with during your move. I always advise my clients not to give up plausible deniability, but why cry over spilled milk? Did we talk about disappearance, maiming, mutilation? Just so you know, I don't do contract killings, although I can introduce you to some people. Now, as a full-service professional, we take care of some of the details that our, less knowledgeable employers might overlook. I'm leaning toward disappearances. I mean, why pay alimony when you can get away without it? Cleaner and much more concise. I have a few moving companies that can help you out. Let me know when the moving day is so I can book you as a VIP customer. Curtis winked at him as he handed him several brochures and a manila folder. Although it's a federal crime, I've singled out a few states with the lowest rates of solved kidnappings and murders, comparing them to FBI data on states with the fewest law enforcement officers, which means they're probably understaffed, and states with the highest caseloads, which probably means they're understaffed. Maybe one of them will appeal to you. I would start posting your resume as soon as possible, so we can get rid of this junk as soon as possible. How are your acting skills? You might want to work on them, as crying children tend to move even the most hardened officers. How about a shocked and bewildered expression? Can you do that? He looked at Mr. Anderson's current expression. Perfect. Move. What? Move where? I'm not going anywhere. That's why I called you. To take care of this. I can't raise any suspicions. Mr. Anderson began to protest loudly. I have a home. My children love their school. I could even be elected to the city council. Curtis looked up from his notes and looked at the businessman. Really? So, you're not going to move? I take back half of the bad things I thought about you. That's a brave choice. I admire your strength of will and fortitude. What? You've thought this through, haven't you? Shaking his head slightly, he muttered something that sounded like amateurs. Mr. Anderson, I can clear you of suspicion through legal channels. I can assure you that you will never be arrested, let alone tried. Suspicions. He began to lay out another stack of brochures and folders. Suspicions are more difficult to deal with. It takes a lot of effort, i.e., money, to dispel suspicions. That's why I always suggest moving. Neighbors, former friends, constant harassment by the police. I won't even mention the press and its blatantly irresponsible insinuations. Well, I don't think they would be irresponsible in your case. They're like remoras. So, milk bags are so 90s. We can start with posters at bus stops and a few billboards. It won't cost too much. We can also do some online advertising. I'm not spending a penny on that bitch. Why do I need milk bags? Oh, Curtis underlined something in his notebook. So you're not worried that you'll be suspected when she disappears. You're a loyal man. Giving up your seat on the board, your kids' love, your chances of dating. What? Curtis sighed with an expression of long suffering. If your wife disappears and you don't launch a missing persons campaign, you'll be suspected. You won't get elected to city council. You can probably kiss your promotion goodbye. You'll be hounded by your neighbors, friends, and relatives. Look what happened to Ramsey. Look what happened to OJ. Of course. He didn't hire me in the first place. I always hate amateurs. Careless. Are you sure you won't change your mind? No? Curtis began laying out several business cards. What's that? Anderson asked. The criminal's face contorted in disgust. This is a new service my partner insisted on adding. These are local psychiatrists who specialize in psychological assistance for people who have lost loved ones, especially young children. Missing parents. Well, I've heard it's traumatic, especially if there's no so-called closure. He laid out a few more brochures. And here are some tutoring centers in case their grades drop. The women mainly help children with their studies. Now they won't have that since you'll be working and staying single for the foreseeable future. Why should I remain single? And what do you mean I should give up dating? I'm good looking. I have money. I'm a nice guy. Lots of girls are looking for what I have to offer. Curtis struggled not to roll his eyes. Yeah, you're a nice guy. You're a nice guy who lost his wife and refuses to look for another one. You know, after Henry VIII chopped off a few heads, he had a pretty hard time finding a wife, too. His last wife was a 40-year-old widow whom he forced to marry him by threatening to execute and banish her lover. He sent him abroad for the rest of his life. You're not the King of England. Reluctantly, he added, well, I suppose you could find yourself some company. He put his hand to his forehead, concentrating. Write that down. Anderson obeyed. Enchanted Acres, Courtyard Estates, Westbrook Court, Byway Trailer Park. Trailer Park? Anderson stopped writing. Yes, we're a professional company that provides a full range of services. You said you wanted female company after... He made a gesture as if cutting his throat. So you need a local girl with qualities that match your strengths. Uneducated, low maintenance, poor. So, a trailer park. Any educated girl who Googles your name will find your dirty past and... Well, he frowned again. And we're back to escort services. Although, to be honest, escort girls usually have bodyguards, so they feel much safer. Although, he jotted something down on his notepad. Thanks. I need to add a name change to the service package. Not that it matters to the press or the police. Give me a couple of weeks on that. Since you're not moving, we have time. Oh, mail-order brides. Long-distance relationships. Although that's going to be a damn difficult conversation when you two ask each other about your previous relationships. My advice? Lie. Start the relationship with a clean slate. I don't believe it's as bad as you say. Curtis shrugged in a French manner. I'm not responsible for your beliefs. So, is it yes or no on the disappearance? Anderson shook his head as he looked at him. Curtis drew a line through something in his notebook and began gathering the relevant documents back into his briefcase. Too bad. I already found a Bolivian brothel. There goes half my income. Anderson paled slightly. Okay, then, how about mutilation? I'm very good at my job. I have standard acids, burns, abrasion scars. To be honest, acid is one of my favorites. A special gun, and squish! He made a gun with his fingers. You can choose whether to aim for the eyes or not. A little insurance for custody. Very popular with fathers who want to avoid paying child support. One detail my clients often overlook is not to divorce her first. Do you have long-term care insurance as part of your work package? Seeing him shake his head, Curtis crossed something else off his notepad. Are you sure you don't want to move? Well, whether you move or not, you won't be able to get the kids, although maybe you should. Excuse me? Curtis looked at him again. She's alive. Do you really think she's an idiot? Do you believe she won't share her suspicions with her children if she ends up disabled or disfigured? Really? How will that look to them? Things like that don't get forgotten, Mr. Anderson. He began laying out a few more brochures. What's this? Oh, standard stuff for injury cases, prices for Kevlar vests, a list of security websites, alarms, window bars, some recommendations for guard dogs, firearms training. Standard stuff. How well do you sleep? Why the hell do I need this? Curtis blinked. If you do this, you're going to have to divorce her. I mean, come on. Are you going to sleep next to someone you just ordered to be disfigured? Do you believe she'll tolerate that? She'll come after you? Or her family will? Just like you. He glanced at the diplomas on the wall. I have to ask, do your parents believe that all that money spent on your education was not wasted? Wait a minute. Curtis raised his hands in a conciliatory gesture. I'm sorry. That was probably inappropriate. It's not your fault you don't fully understand the reality of the situation. It's just that people get angry when they lose something they care about, like a spouse. Or their looks. Look at this. He lazily pointed to a photograph of the Andersons on the sideboard. It had been taken at a company Christmas party. They were well dressed. She was wearing a crumpled purple velvet dress, the frills on the bodice not quite concealing her ample bosom. It was tight enough to emphasize her slender figure, but not so tight as to look vulgar, and was a seductive, though decent, length. 3 rows of pearls beautifully accentuated the outfit. She spent a lot of time on those curls. She has beautiful hair color. Her skin is quite good. She obviously doesn't smoke. Clear gray eyes, lips made for kissing. He noticed Anderson tense up. Sorry, it's a Norwegian term I've heard. She has beautiful cheekbones, nice figure, a solid 7. Anderson frowned again. 8? 8.5? She's gorgeous. Of course she's beautiful. Any man would be proud to have her on his arm. He took out another folder. Anyway. He pointed to the photo of his wife again, and Anderson followed his finger. We can move on from this. His finger moved to the folder and opened it. To this. Mr. Anderson barely made it to the trash can before his beef sandwich from lunch flew out of his mouth and nose. Unfortunately, his office had one of those modern trash cans with a metal mesh, so it could only soften the mess, but not contain it completely. His ears rang as he felt a piece of sandwich stuck somewhere and had to exhale it. He gasped for air, trying to breathe out the sour smell from his nostrils, while the monster continued to talk about how they had a great line of veils, recently purchased so as not to traumatize children when they visited their mothers. When he was finally able to look up, his gaze reflexively averted from the closed folder, and he saw Curtis staring impassively at him. How could you? Me? Mr. Anderson, you called me. You want very bad things done to your wife. I'm here. Want another example? He pulled out another folder with a questioning look. No! That's too much. That's too much. I see. What would be enough, Mr. Anderson? Just remove her nose. How about all her fingers? What exactly would make you feel better? Nothing, I understand. Nothing will make me feel better. Curtis looked at him with snake eyes. There's nothing I can do. He folded his leather jacket and pulled a light-colored blazer with elbow patches out of his briefcase. He fastened the white suspenders, put on his glasses, and changed his jacket. With a single stroke of his comb, he changed his hairstyle. Well, although it was a fun way to kill time, the night turned out to be quite profitable. Let's keep in touch. Hey, where are you taking my money? Mr. Anderson, that's my money. My job is to do unpleasant things for bad people, like being an escort or a lawyer. And, as in any of those professions, if you can't deliver, there's no refund. He turned and headed for the door. Anderson crossed the room and slammed the door shut as Curtis tried to open it. No way! That's my kid's education money. I believed it was money well spent. You learned a lot about yourself today, Mr. Anderson. The man stepped forward, glaring at Curtis. Slowly, Curtis raised his hand and rubbed his forehead. What's next? Are you going to attack me? The man you hired to commit violence? You're going to attack him? Good luck with that. Maybe I'll let you beat me up, and you'll be charged with assault and theft. How will you explain to your boss why you started a fight in your office? How will you explain who I am? Okay, I can see what's going through your head. You're going to call the police. They'll come. And then what? They'll arrest me for having money? You'll say I stole it? and I'll say you gave it to me. Then they'll want to know why a man in your position, with your reputation, has $10,000 in cash. They'll want to know how I know you, how I know you have money, and how we met here. Do you believe they would be interested in that? Did you believe your wife would be curious about that? And that's in the best case scenario. In the best case? Yes, in the best case. Because, Mr. Anderson, if I answer, excuse me, the questions of the authorities, I may be late for dinner. If my warm body isn't at the table, well, my partner has her opinion about people who meddle in her affairs, Mr. Anderson. She knows where you live. He reached into his pocket. Maybe I should leave you my psychiatrist's card, just in case they find your personal belongings. There's no good outcome for you here. I just want my money back and for you to get out of my life. I'm sure your wife wants her virtue back and you back in her life. Funny how things work out. You're stealing my money. That's exactly what I'm not doing. I'm hired. At your service, I might add. You paid me voluntarily. I offered you several ways I could satisfy your needs. You are in conflict. It's not my fault. Curtis could see that he was still unhappy. He frowned. Mr. Anderson, do you think I'm a bad person? Remembering the photo, he shuddered. Yes. As a professional, let me tell you, what she did to you was wrong. She betrayed your trust. She made you feel inadequate. She may have even risked your life. A little. Very little. But still a little. He took a deep breath through his nostrils as he stood next to the businessman. She hurt your soul. I can feel it. This time it was Curtis who trembled, but not with disgust. That's bad. But as an expert, I know there are people in this world far worse than a woman who broke her vows and illegally rented out your pussy. He leaned toward the man and raised his left hand between their faces, his index finger and thumb just a centimeter apart. Today, you were so close to becoming one of them. You are squandering your children's future to destroy the person you love. You wanted to crush her body and soul, but you didn't even have the courage to do it yourself. Even if I gave you back your blood money, which I won't, the choice has already been made. You have changed forever. You're stained, just like your carpet. There's no turning back. Listen, you believed you got nothing for your money. That's not true. You got the best advice I could give you. Divorce her or get over it. Yell, rage, cry, talk. People can get used to the most horrible things, and the money wasn't wasted. If you ever decide to bridge the gap and take that final step, his fingers tightened. I'll be waiting for you at the bottom of the abyss, and I'll owe you $10,000 for all the cruelty. Today, tomorrow, 20 years from now. Just call. I'll be waiting. He pointed to the photograph. Underneath the picture of his wife was a business card. While he was distracted, Curtis pushed him aside and knocked him to the floor. Bastard. Curtis hadn't taken 3 steps away from the office when an unmarked Ford Focus pulled up beside him. He hadn't even gotten his feet off the ground when the modified, high-powered engine roared and lurched forward. They made 3 quick left turns. She glanced in the rearview mirror, and he watched the large mirror on the sun visor on his side, looking for tracks. Finally, they pulled into an empty parking space, and she slid from the driver's seat onto his lap, wrapping her arms around him. She brushed her hair away from his eyes so he could see what she was doing as they kissed. When they finished, they looked intently into each other's eyes. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he replied, smiling her smile. "Dad brought home some grandmas today." No one says that anymore. "I'll write it down." She looked closely at his face. "So, plan A or plan B?" He shook his head sadly. "What's wrong with people today? Peter the Great sentenced his wife to live in a stone monastery north of the Arctic Circle because he was tired of her and couldn't wait for her to freeze to death. Empress Wu had her rival's hands and feet cut off, ordered her to be flogged with 100 lashes, and locked her in a sealed building to starve to death. He can't even look at the gruesome pictures. The current generation lacks spirit. Plan B. And all these people were kings or something. Yeah. He was full of energy until he found out how much it would cost him. These days, everyone believes he's the king. I blame reading porn on the internet. I blame the education system, but it's good for business. Stop being so disappointed. If you really wanted people to choose Plan A, you wouldn't use your disgusting sales tactics. I personally believe that my sales tactics are genius. He took out an envelope. It would be nice to get a call, but I'd rather spend his money than earn it. It only took a few simple truths. The truth will set you free? I think he figured it was worth a little extra, Curtis said, counting the money. So where are you going to go with this money?